Hello, Black Hat Cougars. Mrs. Sutliff here. Thanks for joining me for the read aloud. I am going to take my mask off. I'm making videos of the read alouds for a couple of reasons. The first one is I can take my mask off and you can actually hear me. And I even have this wonderful headset I can wear so that you can really listen in and hear me very well. Also, so people who are at home can still listen to the story if they happen to miss class. So we've been reading Rump, the true story of Rumplestiltskin. And I would like to actually start today's read aloud with the traditional Grimm's fairy tale, because some of my classes never heard the story. And this is the moment in the story, in this book, where we can really start to compare the two stories. So I want to make sure everyone remembers or knows the traditional fairy tale. So this is Rumpelstiltskin as written by the brothers Grimms. There was once a miller who was very poor, but he had a beautiful daughter. Now it once happened that he had occasion to speak with the king, and in order to give himself an air of importance, he said, "I have a daughter who can spin gold out of straw." The king said to the miller, "This is an art in which I am much interested. If your daughter is as skillful as you say she is, bring her to my castle tomorrow, and I will put her to the test." Accordingly, when the girl was brought to the castle, the king conducted her to a chamber which was quite full of straw, gave her a spinning wheel and a reel, and said, "Now set to work! And if between tonight and tomorrow at dawn you have not spun this straw into gold, you must die." Thereupon he carefully locked the chamber door, and she remained alone. There sat the unfortunate miller's daughter, and for the life of her she did not know what to do. She had not the least idea how to spin straw into gold, and she became more and more distressed, until at last she began to weep. Then all at once the door sprang open, and in stepped a little man who said, "Good evening, Mistress Miller. Why are you weeping so?" "Alas," answered the maiden, "I've got to spin gold out of straw, and I don't know how to do it." Then the little man said, "What will you give me if I spin it for you?" "My necklace," said the maid. The little man took the necklace, sat down before the spinning wheel, and whir, 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 in a thrice the reel was full. Then he fixed another reel, and whir, 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 thrice round, and that too was full. And so it went on until morning, when all the straw was spun, and all the reels were full of gold. Immediately at sunrise the king came, and when he saw the gold he was astonished and much pleased, but his mind became only the more avaricious. So he had the miller's daughter taken to yet another chamber full of straw, larger than the former one, and he ordered her to spin it all in one night, if she valued her life. The maiden was at her wit's end and began to weep. Then once again the door sprang open, and the little man appeared and said, "What will you give me if I spin the straw into gold for you?" "The ring off my finger," answered the maiden. The little man took the ring, began to whir again at the wheel, and by morning had spun all the straw into gold. The king was delighted at the sight of the masses of gold, but he was not even yet satisfied. So he had the miller's daughter taken to a still larger chamber full of straw, and said, "This must you spin tonight into gold, but if you succeed you shall become my queen." "Even if she is only a miller's daughter," he thought, "I shan't find a richer woman in the whole world." When the girl was alone, the little man came again and said for the third time, "What will you give me if I spin the straw for you this time?" "I have nothing more that I can give," answered the girl. "Well, then you must promise me your firstborn child if you become queen." Who knows what may happen, thought the miller's daughter, but she did not see any other way of getting out of her difficulty. So she promised the little man what he demanded, and in return he spun all the straw into gold once more. When the king came in the morning and found everything as he had wished, he celebrated his marriage with her, and the miller's daughter became his queen. About a year afterward, a beautiful child was born, but the queen had forgotten all about the little man. However, he suddenly entered her chamber and said, "Now you must give me what you promised." The queen was terrified and offered the little man all the wealth of the kingdom, if he would let her keep her child. But the little man said, "No, I would rather have some living thing than all the treasure of the world." Then the queen began to moan and weep to such an extent that the little man felt sorry for her. "I will give you 3 days," he said, "and if within that time you discover my name, you shall keep the child." Then during the night the queen called to mind all the names she had ever heard and sent a messenger all over the country to inquire far and wide what other names there were. When the little man appeared the next day, she began with Casper, Melchior, Balthazar, and then she mentioned all the names which she knew, one after the other. But at every one the little man said, No, that is not my name." The second day she had inquiries made all around the neighborhoods for the names of people living there, and suggested to the little man all the most unusual and strange names. "Perhaps your name is Cow Ribs, or Spindle Shanks, or Spider Legs." But he answered every time, "No, that's not my name." On the third day the messenger came back and said, "I haven't been able to find any new names, but I came round the corner of a wood in a lofty mountain where the fox says goodnight to the hare, and I saw a little house, and in front of the house a fire was burning, and around the fire a most ridiculous little man was leaping. He was hopping on one leg and singing, 'Today I bake, tomorrow I brew my beer, the next day I will bring the queen's child here. Ah, lucky 'tis not a soul doth know that Rumplestiltskin is my name. Ho, ho.'" Imagine how delighted the queen was when she heard the name. And soon afterwards, when the little man came in and asked, "Now, your majesty, what is my name?" At first she asked, "Is your name Tom?" "No." "Is it Dick?" "No." "Is it, by chance, Rumplestiltskin?" The little man shrieked in rage. He stomped his feet and stormed out of the castle. And so it was that the queen could keep her child. That's the end of the story. What a wonderful fairy tale. And the thing I love most about it is that Lise Shirtliff, the author of this book, took that traditional fairy tale and created this wonderful chapter book, which is a fractured fairy tale, a different version of the same story. And as we continue reading this book together, I would very much like it if you could keep in your mind the traditional fairy tale so that you can help us have a good discussion about the similarities and the differences between these two stories. Thanks for joining me for the read aloud. I look forward to continuing to read this book with you.